So now being 5:45, I'll call the October 28th meeting of the Finance Audit Committee to order. Let's see, accessibility statement. This meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. Large print materials are available upon request. If you would like either of these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron, 508-583-1833. The Notice of Non-Discrimination Rights and Protections to Beneficiaries with regard to the Title VI Non-Discrimination Protections and the State Non-Discrimination Protections is posted in this meeting room and is available on the Old Colony Planning Council website. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833 for more information. Thank you. All right, Mary, how about roll call?
Yes, Christine Joy.
Present.
Stephen Santisanio.
Present.
Sandra Wright. I see you there, Sandra, and then Becky.
Present. Yeah.
Perfect.
Present.
Great,
Present.
And Madam Treasurer, just for the sake for consistency, so besides myself, we have Charles Kilmer, Megan Fournier, Brenda Robeson for staff.
Great. Thank you, Mary. All right. First item on our agenda is the September 2025 meeting minutes. Those were in the packet. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
All right. Thank you. We have a second? All right. Thank you, Stephen.
Yep.
Roll call, please, Mary.
Christine Joy,
Accept.
Stephen Santisanio,
Accept.
Sandra Wright,
Accept.
Becky Coletta.
Accept.
All right, Brenda, how about the September 2025 financials?
Okay. At the end of September, we had a positive financial standing. Ideal expenses in the third month of the fiscal year would be 25%. Actual expenses were at 21.03%. So expenses in September show a 3.97% surplus. Budgeted income over expenses in September was $422,906. Statement of expenditures report shows total expenses for the month at $252,978. Cash position report shows income for the month at $319,116, bringing the total cash received at month's end to $1,050,814. Disbursements for the month were $344,753. OPEB account had a gain of $34,761, bringing the ending balance in the OPEB account to $1,438,552. Budget resources report. The total year-to-date receipts at month end is $1,050,814. AAA report. Outstanding balance for AAA pass-through programs was $302,332. Outstanding balance for AAA admin and ombudsman programs was $341,853, bringing the total outstanding balance for all AAA programs to $644,185.
Could
Volunteer transportation account, beginning balance was
in there
sure
on the AAA outstanding, the
Yep.
302. That almost seems a little lower than sometimes we get there. But
yes, it is because we received a ton of money for them over the last month.
which is great. But
yeah.
But the ombudsman and admin activity, that 341, is that high? Are we waiting for a big payment from the state on that?
It could be. Without Sean here, I'm not sure offhand. I do know
Right.
that most of the balances that are sitting here are for recent billings.
Okay, good.
They paid most of their old stuff. They sent a lot of money over the course of the last month. So I can find that out for you and get back to you on that, Becky, if you'd like.
Or to have it for tomorrow night. I just
Sure.
look at that seemed a little flipped from the way we normally see it in terms of where our balances are. So I was just curious.
Yeah, last month, I know it was like in the 800,000. It was huge last month. I know it was, but we received a lot of funds. So I'll have the details on what those balances for ombudsman and admin, where those balances actually are coming from, or
Okay,
what makes those balances. Okay, does somebody else have a question? Okay, sorry. Volunteer transportation account, beginning balance was $163,514. Donations received were a total of $148, bringing the ending balance in the fund to $163,662. ROM statement and activity. Bank statement balance at the beginning of September was $138,153. Receipts for the month were $8,580, bringing the total income to $20,550, which you can see in the top portion, under income, the top square, $20,550. Expenses for the month were $5,355, bringing the total expenses to $22,182. And the ending statement balance on September 30th was was 44,000. Can you go back up just a little bit? I'm sorry. You scanned right past the number. Was $141,648.04. Sorry, Megan. That was my fault. Budget reports. Ideal expenses in the third month of the fiscal year would be 25%. The actual expenses were 21.03 expense. So expenses in September show a 3.97% surplus. Budgeted income over expenses in September were a total of $422,906. Page 1, expenditures at the end of the month were a total of $684,027. Budgeted funds remaining at the end of the month were a total of $2,567,966. Projected grant income at this time is $3,674,899. Page 3, projected pass-through income for AAA is $1,531,618. Contractor pass-through funds received through the end of September were a total of $17,741. Lastly is the list of combined accounts payable and cash transfers for the month of September. And that's the end of the regular financial report.
And
Any
Sean,
questions?
Sean Noel ended up joining us, so maybe we can answer that question.
Okay,
Megan, could you go up to the AAA, please?
Sean,
Yes,
Becky was asking, in the middle, the AAA ombudsman and admin activity, the expenses, the balance in the balances in those accounts, particularly the admin and the ombudsman standard expenses. Where are those balances? Do you think those balances are coming from? Is that all recent billings?
these are September numbers, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, actually, most of this has been paid.
Oh, at this point in time, it's been paid. So it got
Yeah,
paid
we
since I did.
received-
Okay.
We received approximately $443,000 in early October, of which I would say close to 200,000 of this was the was payments towards ombudsman and admin.
Okay. So these numbers only reflect through the end of September, Becky.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
great. I just, normally that first number is higher with the AAA pass-through, and this time the admin ombudsman seemed higher, and I was just curious. So thank you, Sean.
Becky, to be clear, they had earlier, part of the reason that top number was a little lower was because they had paid some of the pass-through funding. They had paid a bunch of nutrition money, which that is obviously the biggest category, and that those payments get made to OCES. Those were paid in September. And then in October, we received a bunch of the remaining money, which is Title 3B, 3D, and then the administration and ombudsman stuff.
Okay, so that means that the meals programs are in decent shape heading into November, in terms of where our funding stands on the AAA funds.
That's correct. Actually, much of AAA heading into November, and you'll see them next month. Really, about the only outstanding payments from AAA at this point are the fourth fiscal quarter, which is July through September, and those are Those have all been submitted. Many have been approved. We just haven't seen payments on them yet.
Okay, glad to see that AAA getting better, right?
Yeah, it's the response. Sheila Tunney, particularly the CFO over at Age, has made some real progress with getting things moving. So it's been nice to see.
I have a question if I may.
Go
Certainly.
ahead, Sandy.
So I'm looking at the top where it says total FY 23, 24, and 25. That's 2.5 years, 3 years, almost. We don't do this fiscally, yearly, these amounts.
Well, these numbers reflect the balances in all of these categories. And when when we first started the fiscal year, we actually did have some FY 23 stuff that was still outstanding, which is probably no longer. So I'll update those next month and remove the FY 23 if there's, I mean, there may have just been like a few dollars left that had not yet been adjusted. So, but yeah, that's the reason why. There's definitely FY 24 and FY 25 balances in there, no doubt.
So just some carryovers. I
Yes,
didn't
yes.
realize it was that many years, but I can understand why. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Part of
Good.
that, Sandy, is also that there are some ARPA funds
Oh,
that were
right.
still left to be outstanding, that were still available, that had yet to be paid, and had in some cases had yet to be used. But like I said, and Brenda's correct. They're relatively very small amounts, but they are kind of hanging out a little bit.
And
Yes,
if,
they're still open on the sheet of, to go forward. I guess they're not cleared up, so they have to be carried forward, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like I said, a
This
lot of them will be sorted out. There's not
AAA, as Becky started off by saying, this is, and it's always our, I don't want to call them problem child, but they are, in the sense that we really have the outstanding that is due to us. But, we don't know exactly why. There's a good relationship. I would probably say with maybe a change in the management at the state, it's been helpful in moving these funds. But again, these are federal funds that come to the state. And we just don't know whatever relationship that is. No different than sometimes the, federal funds go into Mass DOT. That just seems to be running much more smoothly. But, credit to David and to Sean and to Brenda for continually to have conversations with Neil, who is our contact, and then and continually just to get these funds so we can be caught up.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions for Brenda? All right, how about a motion to accept the September 2025 financials as presented?
I'll make
So
that
moved.
motion. Oh,
All right.
I'll
second.
second.
All right, thank you, Stephen and Sandy. Mary, can you do a roll call vote?
Yes, Christine Joy,
Accept.
Stephen Santusanio,
Accept.
Sandra Wright,
Accept.
and Becky Coletta.
Except,
All right, thank you, everybody. All right, Brenda, how about fiscal
Actually,
reserves?
Oh, no, you're right. I'm sorry. I was jumping ahead. Good.
Okay, so fiscal reserves at a glance, and this is really kind of a summary of all the reports that we just did. But this is a very summarized way. The total cash balances for all accounts on September 23rd were $1,604,354. The total account balances are decreased by $303,041, which is the amount of the restricted funds such as volunteer transportation, OPEB, and payments received in advance for specific grants. This leaves total cash available on October 23rd of $1,301,313. Accounts receivable balance on October 23rd is a total of $180,812. ROM account balance on October 23rd was $139,159. And after the September payment, the building loan had a principal balance of $267,312. And that's our finances at a glance.
Great, thank you, Brenda. Any questions on the finances at a glance that Brenda just presented? All right, Mary, did you want to do the potential changes to financial reporting?
I do, and this is, well, it has an action item behind it. I think this is more for discussion, but Megan, can you pull that up? Did you include that in the packet?
No, one
so-
second. I'll grab it right here.
So Sandra and I had a conversation, and one of the things that she had talked about is that maybe to relook at the way the financials are presented. She was mentioning how the Plymouth County government has theirs, and I've asked Paul Omano this morning for him just to do a little research, just so it's something for all of you to take a look at. I did include it already in your packet. I sent it to you earlier today by way of email. And again, Plymouth County revenues in terms of the run through per item, the actual of FY 2022, 23, 24, 25, and then we have the approved 26. Again, across the board. Again, it's just a sample. And although that Brenda already had made some improvements from a couple months ago, where if the financials that you just saw, the ROM was retooled, if you will, so it's a little bit smoother. I just wanted to make sure that there was some sort of conversation, and since Sandy brought it up, wanted to share. You know, we can take a look at this, and I mean, if you want to, Megan, if you want to just continue to scroll through, just again, what the table of contents, this is a little bit more entailed than what we have. Certain things like the summary, the reduction of debt. And it does have the sign off by the administrator, but it also has a sign off by the treasurer. So, again, all this information is in what was presented. We could take a look at other elements of it. So I guess I'll just leave that to taking a look at what the Plymouth County has, and perhaps take another look at our budget, and if there's any suggestions that any of you as a finance committee has that you would like to see improved. And it was funny because I know that just because Becky caught it, and that, at one point I was thinking like, well, maybe we can consolidate that AAA, but yet because we had it laid out, it was one thing that Becky had identified as saying, hey, I saw those numbers. So anyway, this is just for discussion and for insight, and if anybody has some recommendations. Christine, Becky has her hand up.
Yeah, okay, I've got a question too. Go ahead, Becky.
No, you go, Christine.
Well, my question was just to Sandy is why do you feel like we need to change our format? Do you feel like you're not getting information that you need in the way we're reporting now?
No, not at all. And the first page that you had up there is just something that they would bring to our meeting, just that first page, just telling the expenses and the revenue, which I think Brenda does an awful lot of work, and I thought maybe we could simplify it a little bit for her. It was just something that I threw out there, and it gives it all the same details as what Brenda does. But I mean, that's just in question. I just think it's simply, money in, money out. I don't know on her end, because I'm not sure what she's done. The other part of all the departments is just a booklet that, we hand out like once a year, so the budget for the year. Excuse me 1 second. I gotta tell them to.
Well, while she's doing that as well, so, and again, the format that we used is exactly the same format that we used when Pat Gimello was executive director. And, with the continuity of it is, no one really had said anything, but, oh, sorry, Sandy, you're back.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So I mean, I just thought, like this one page, which is handed to us monthly, and we can look at, the different departments and different, expenses and monies going out. And I know part of what you do of all the payments that go out to different entities and stuff, they would just combine that into like one amount. You didn't, and just, if we wanted to see who you paid, we could, then look at what you had attached to it. But I don't know if it was necessary to have every month the amount that you've paid out. I don't know. I just thought it was something we could throw out. I think Brenda just does a lot of extra work to me, but maybe it's just because I'm used to Plymouth counties and just
If I
seems a
could,
little
if I could
simpler.
at least respond to Sandy, at least on, so, both Becky and Christine, they're the sign, along with myself, but they're the ones who sign off. Sean will do the AP and then sends it, and then for their review. I do think it's probably unnecessary. I mean, it's transparency in one hand, but, all of this information can be available to any of the council members.
Right.
So, but that is, again, this is more of it's a little bit of both recommendations of members of, the staff to you. We're just continuing to report back what we're doing in terms of grants and receipts and expenditures.
If I could say something more for 1 second, maybe what I could do is I could do taking these documents that are on the screen now, I can see how this sort of a format fits into what we have, and do sort of a side by side and see how much less work or extra work or how much more value is in each packet in comparison. Does that sound like a good idea?
Sure, if everybody, I
don't-
think if everybody, agrees
Yeah,
on.
let's hear
thinks that
from
it's right.
Becky first, and then if anybody else has got something that they want to add. So go ahead, Becky.
My question was very similar to yours, Christine, like what's the concern that we're trying to address? What I didn't know is whether or not, Sandy, if you were also getting at, they do have their revenues, like their summary sheet has multiple years, and I know in the past you've talked about wanting to see projections moving forward, but it is sort of interesting to see actual and approved over multiple years. But that almost creates more work. And if your objective is to have Brenda do less work, I don't know that that really is what you were going for.
Yeah, myself, I thought it was just a lot of extra work that she was doing, which we could simplify it a little bit, but we can take a look at it, and if you like it, and if we can do anything, then everybody agrees, and that's perfectly fine. Just something I wanted to throw out there.
So,
Yeah,
so
I'm
go ahead.
I know sometimes on Brenda's reports, you have a lot of numbers and you're going down, and sometimes I think that, oh, I want to ask that, and then you jump down to another line, and then we don't get back to that. I mean, there just seems like a lot of numbers, and I wish I knew the page that we once just went through. But it's
Let's have Megan pull it up. Thank you,
sometimes
Megan.
a little confusing of, what number you're talking about, and if you're thinking about reading on the side, and then you've got other numbers on the right side. So
No, you're right. These reports are a lot of work. They do take some time, because our financials are not based on like a straight profit and loss, because we have that combined.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's, how these were compiled in the first place, I'm not sure. They're pretty, the beginning reports, like the cash report and the statement of expenditures, those reports in the beginning are very brilliantly put together. They're the calculations and things that are in there are wonderful. But if anyone would look super closely at these reports, I'm not sure people would understand exactly how the things all fit together, because they're a little bit complicated. And the reports that you are suggesting are maybe a little bit more streamlined. And as far as doing a 5-year comparison, QuickBooks automatically does comparisons from year to year. All you have to do is compare this year to, and so you have the numbers are right there side by side. So it really wouldn't be a lot of work to put comparisons in several years, even though going too far back might get a little wonky because some things have changed. You
If
know,
I could recommend, let us talk internally. We really unfortunately did not have a whole lot of time with the audit going on and a number of things. So we don't have another, well, there's another finance meeting to talk about the audit in November, early November, but let us internally come up with some suggestions. You know, Paul thought maybe even like doing a graphic pie chart could be helpful in just bringing a different visual, and some of these numbers are still there. So let us come up with a couple recommendations, talk internally, and then, you know, we can present them either in January, or we can have some, you know, run them by individually. I don't want to have anything, conversations happen in a group because you violate open meeting law. But
Right.
maybe we'll start first with you, Christine, as a treasurer, and then with you, Sandy, as someone who brought this up. But let us put together some options A and B, maybe C, and then run it by prior to, and hopefully we can start with maybe new financials in January.
Christine has her hand up.
No, that sounds good. And I like what Sandy said about, trying to make things easier for Brenda. And I think that needs to be the end goal. And if it's easier, great. If it's not, then, we don't do it. So, Stephen, you didn't say anything. Are you okay with us, going ahead and handling it this way?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not in favor of obviously doing extra work for the sake of doing extra work. If the way Brenda's doing it now, it's a lot of moving parts, but my guess is she has it down to a science the way she does it. So I don't know if doing an addition another way is going to add to her or whatever. It's really up to Brenda, I guess, really for her to kind of take a deep dive in what's best. So, I mean, either way, there's a lot of information on both of them. So.
All right, sounds good. So Mary, that sounds like a good suggestion that you guys are gonna go back and take a look at this and hopefully this doesn't take a whole lot of manpower and horsepower for you guys to go through this and see whether or not if this is something that we can do.
Right.
Okay.
Appreciate
All right.
Sandra, bringing that up in terms of at least having.
Yeah, thank you, Sandy, and good suggestions and a lot of great information that they include on Plymouth County.
And I just want to say one last thing. Brenda, you do a great job. And, my whole thought was, to make it a little simpler. But, we can look at it later, and not that I think Plymouth County is the best way, because I know that they have flaws, but we can just look at this and see if it can be easier.
Sounds like a plan. All right, so we're on to review of financial policies. Does Paul want to take the lead with this one, or Mary, are you?
Nope, I'm going to have Paul Umano take the lead on
Perfect.
this. You ready, Paul?
Paul, do you want to share your screen or do you want me to pull up the Word version?
If you could, I wasn't really prepared to present on them, but yeah. I will.
Right, Mary, is that what you'd want to do, is
Yes.
pull up
Yep.
the Word version? Okay,
Yes, please.
1 second.
Lots of fire engines going on around downtown here.
Oh, boy.
Any more shootings?
No, thankfully. Thank you for asking, Stephen. Just make that maybe a little
I
bit.
know, it's not, hold on 1 second. I gotta switch the view. Why are you? Sorry.
And while Megan's getting that kind of formatted here for us to review, just again, I mean, the emails back and forth between Christine and with Stephen, your input on this, greatly appreciated. The reason why I'm having Paul on this, he really had taken, there've been a number of us, and as you know, Paul Umano has now joined the finance team, and it's been a great addition with Sean and with Brenda, and with his fresh set of eyes, taking a look at this document and beefing it up. So it's on the foundation of a lot of great work done by staff. And then now it's just including continue to be improvement. So with that, Paul.
Sure. So as Mary mentioned, I took the input of everybody here that provided some feedback on this and just really enhance it even further than the last time we talked about it. So most of this remains the same, but obviously adding some additional content. If we look at the goals here, we made a few more additions based on some feedback from Christine. So the third bullet in, to maintain a balanced budget that's fiscally responsible, represents the mission of the council and supports the financial stability of the council. Then the rest of that remains the same. We talk about the control procedures here. Really wasn't too many changes on that. One of the big changes that we did add to this section, however, was an anti-fraud policy, which I think was huge and needed based on some things that had happened to us the past couple of years. So there's really a policy statement here, scope. We define what the definition of fraud is, including the roles and responsibilities relative to employees, the department heads, the finance department, and Mary as the executive director. And then also within this, we define the prevention and detection measures. There's 6 listed here, including the addition of prevention of shared logins, which is a new one that was added. Staff are prohibited from sharing system logins and passwords, and each user must have a unique credentials to ensure accountability, maintain data security, security, and preserve the integrity of audit trails. And then the final section here is relative to reporting the suspected fraud and some investigation procedures relative to that. Some additional adds on this is relative to disciplinary measures up to and including termination, as well as legal action if it's warranted, depending on the case. And then the review committee, so to speak, would be the finance department, finance audit committee, department heads, as well as final approval from the finance audit committee on the back end of things. So that was a good addition to this financial policies in that particular section. The rest here, as Megan scrolling, remains the same. Just added another line there in that section above the finance audit committee. Another addition here under the budgeting and financial reporting from Christine relative to a balanced budget, really defining what that means, which is the total revenues are equal to the total expenses and what's needed to accomplish this. I do still see a note in there.
Yeah, Paul, my question on that one was, are we still doing that? Because I thought that she's no longer using that, that Brenda's no longer using that miscellaneous line. But so I just wanted to confirm that we were still actually doing this.
Brenda?
Can you elaborate a little bit?
Well, I know in the past, to balance the budget, you had that miscellaneous line and you would
Yes.
move money, you decrease it as in order to balance the budget. I
Yes.
didn't think you were doing that any longer.
No, I'm not. It's not, it's not showing up as a balanced budget now. It's showing our expenses, our actual expenses and our income. And then that paragraph at the bottom, on the first budget page on page 1, it lets you know how much income we have that's over the, how much income over expenses, which that becomes the miscellaneous, because that really saying miscellaneous and moving money out of there was not really the best way to do that.
Right.
Yes. So because it's not, at this point in time, it's not a balanced budget. It doesn't
Okay.
really.
So can
right,
we
so
tweak that language to what we actually do?
that's a good idea.
I mean, this section may have to be a little bit reworked if we're no longer practicing
Oh,
that.
you know what? You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And I will I'll
Here's what I would recommend, because this is for discussion for today as well.
Mhm.
We may want to, because tomorrow's the council meeting, and unless we're going to spend some time on what we're going to put in for language, we may take this section and maybe in January have a more defined, otherwise we could either do it today, but then that means tomorrow, and we're really other than we can maybe use some of that November 6th date for the final of the financial policies. You
Well, why
follow?
don't we just delete it, Mary?
Or delete, okay.
Let's just delete it because we
Yeah,
do
that-
begin a
I
year
agree.
with the
I would
balanced
say take it
budget.
out.
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay,
just take the whole thing out.
there we go.
The whole, just the yellow or the
Just the
whole?
highlighted, just the
Okay, that's what I
highlighted
thought. All
portion.
right, yep.
Okay,
Thanks,
That's,
Megan.
that's an easy way to take care of it.
Yep,
perfect.
it
Now
is.
we'll worry about it next time.
Keep it
One
simple.
way or another, you balance the budget.
Exactly.
We just leave it at
All
that.
Good.
Thank you, Christine. I'm sorry I
you're
missed
welcome.
that completely.
Then most of this is still remaining the same. Just a few minor edits as we go down through payroll. All right, so this is the next big section that we added to this portion of the financial policies, and that's having a dedicated grants management policy, something that we hadn't had in the past. So this really defines what the policy statement is and what we're doing relative to that. Similar to the other section on fraud, we define the purpose and some of the tools that we're providing relative to that. What the scope is in terms of the staff that's involved in the preparation of the financial management section. Some key definitions that are relative to what we're doing, including the creation of a grants management cover sheet that I've been talking about with you all for quite a while now, and the grants management dashboard that we've created to centralize all of the grants that we have and present it in a more visual way. And then
Well,
the next section here goes into the
that dashboard, is that something internal only, or is that available to council members or to the public?
That's internal for right now. And we have presented the dashboard to council.
Okay,
Just because there's so many of them and, but all that information is shared in the financials anyway,
okay. All right.
as revenues.
I'm just thinking as we get further along with more and more grants, that dashboard might be something people might want to see, but I guess it doesn't have to be in the policy anyway. Like the fact that it's maintained is the policy.
Right.
Whether
Right.
we make it more publicly available is something.
And the grant dashboard is relatively new within the last, Paul, what, 6 months, maybe?
6 months to a year that we've created and developed it. So yeah, and then again here, policy provisions in terms of staff responsibilities, the fiscal oversight, and then final approval from the executive director. And then we go into the actual use of the cover sheet and some of the checks and balances relative to that. And this was another suggestion from Christine that we had put in, just what the sign-off process is in terms of the department head reviewing it, then Brenda and myself reviewing it, and then the executive director having the final approval on the cover sheet. And then the same sort of uses for the dashboard, some of the things that you would see on the dashboard. And then, again, is regularly maintained by myself and overviewed by the fiscal department heads, and Mary is the executive director. And then this just kind of continues on into a little bit more about grants and the grant life cycle, reporting, invoicing, closeout, enforcement, record keeping, policy review, going into some allowable costs. Is the next section relative to this. So 2 CFR 200 is a big thing in terms of allowable costs relative to federal grants. So we wanted to include that in this as well. And then detail some of what the allowable costs are without getting into too many of the details, but some of the more important ones in terms of sound practices and different funding policies and procedures. And again, making sure everything is adequately documented throughout the process. And same thing for the state side of things. Talk a little bit about match. Again, the types of costs, oversight, and helpful questions from staff. Again, the record keeping and then the policy review. Not too many changes here. The only addition here was at the end of each month, I do an expenditure report that's presented to Mary and the department heads for the current fiscal year. And then this really just highlights where we're at certain points during the fiscal year, just to see how we're doing in terms of the different grant balances. Annual audit, not really too many changes there. Just added a sentence in there about GAP and GASB, a couple of big ones relative to auditing. As you scroll down here, too many changes. The next biggest one that we added here was procurement and purchasing policy section. That was one of the big ones I had noticed when I was taking a look at this, is we didn't have a procurement fiscal policy. So we added one here relative to Chapter 30B and some of the principles relative to that. So, compliance, fair competition, transparency, fiscal responsibility, and integrity, and making sure we're abiding by all Mass General laws. And then what we've added here is the new uniform guidance that actually came out this October. So the new thresholds are what you see below. So it's now up to 15,000 versus 10,000, which it was before. 3 quotes is now 1,501 to 350 from 3 vendors. Anything over 350, you'd have to go out to bid or do an RFP. And so that highlights those changes as well. And then some other transactions here as well relative to that. So feel free to take another look at that if you'd like. And then, ethical standards, federal procurement, more about record keeping, training, and policy review. Next section we added in here is a whistleblower protection policy. I know there were a couple instances where this came up for a couple of our grants, so we thought it would be prudent to add a section in relative to that here as well. So we've same sort of model, policy statement, purpose, scope, and sort of the chain of command in terms of reporting that within our hierarchical structure. And then who's doing the oversight and investigation and some of the safeguards in terms of protections.
And
Can I just
even
ask-
on this part, that's been added to the personnel policy as well, that we already have updated.
In this policy, the one thing that I had not brought up before that I was sort of thinking about today as I was reading through it again, do we have an alternate path if the executive director is the person someone's complaining about?
That's a good question. I don't think
It
we,
looks like by saying you can also submit a designated hotline or email for anonymous reports.
Yeah, but
But I
then
don't
you
know
go
who
to
that goes to.
But I think to
But
the
then you go to investigation and oversight, and you have the executive director or designee will review the reports and determine the course of action. So I guess I feel like we should at least have a statement in here that says that somehow has an alternate path to someone else. I don't know if it's the fiscal manager. I don't know if it's the council itself.
I'm-
Who
Like,
is the
looking-
there's
designee?
an alternate path, right?
I'm looking at our personnel policy because I could swear that we had dealt with that
In our personnel policy.
personnel policy, because again, it was, if it's the executive director, then I believe it went to the president of the council. But that's where some of these cross checks, whether it's financial policy as well as the personnel policy, the intersection.
It could be as simple as as one statement that
Mhm.
says if there are any concerns reported regarding the executive director, that those, can go directly to the president of the council, someone
Mhm.
other than the executive director to make then that decision. I'm thinking more in terms of corporate investigations.
Yeah.
That
And-
usually if everything goes to the CEO, unless the CEO is the subject of it, then it goes to the board of directors or something.
Right. And because I think that hotline is not necessarily I mean, it's an option for sure. But the internal should go to the board of directors or the executive committee or the officers. Let me see, I'm looking at the handbook right now. Nope, that's not it. So maybe just a statement, Becky, if based upon what you were just talking about, is that in that section, if the
I would put it under investigation and oversight, because the one before, I think Megan's right, it talks about other ways to report. But the investigation and oversight, we could just add a sentence that says, in the event the subject of the complaint is the executive director, the matter shall be referred to the executive committee of the board or of the council for investigation and oversight. And I think that's all if we put that there, then there's a path out, and then it's up to the board to decide what you do at that point. Typically,
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Becky, are you talking for the financials?
no, I'm talking about this whistleblowing piece. That if somebody comes in and has a complaint, is a whistleblower, and that typically is required in government contracts. I assume, Paul, that's where you got it from. So if you have a whistleblower, typically the executive director manages the investigation of any whistleblowing. But if the whistleblowing is about the executive director, then you need a different person. And the only people who supervise the executive director are really the council.
I agree.
If asked, what is the designated hotline or email? Like if someone was pressed on, someone came and asked, like an auditor, what is it?
Maybe that should be like a footnote.
Yeah.
And I would suggest that we also put this in the fraud section too, so it's consistent.
Yeah, probably so, Christine. Yeah.
And I'm in the personnel policy right now looking, and we probably need to eventually go back to that as well. It's
Paul,
not,
I think, or Megan, I don't know who's writing here. I would probably say, in the event that the report may be directed towards the executive director, the executive committee of the council will review reports and determine the appropriate course of action. So almost taking the first sentence there, and determine the appropriate course of action. And we can just leave it there, I think, because everything else, it's sort of implied that it follows the rest.
I believe in the matter of like Plymouth County, we have the advisory board that, oversees the commissioners and our budget and everything. So I would think it would be the council.
Yeah, I'm thinking the executive committee
Yeah.
of the council
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
be a more private place to have that conversation begin.
This is
Sure.
starting point. I mean,
It's a starting point. And
Right.
then it may be that the appropriate course of action would be to bring it to the full council.
right.
But I think we would start with a smaller group to determine, like, do we need to bring in a law firm to do an investigation? Do we need to, what do we do at that point? And then maybe a final report goes to the full council, because not many times a complaint may not be valid, and you don't want to do a report to a full council. The executive committee would probably go into executive session to hear it and to talk about it. And
But to your point, there's a gap right now that it doesn't.
yeah, there's
cover.
a gap.
Right.
Yeah.
So Mary, who would you answer to if
So it's
something?
it's really is the
That's what's in
council.
question, and I think it would be the executive board.
Yep, that's who I either that or the personnel committee, one or the other, which pretty
Right,
much
either one.
But and but the executive committee is made up of the chairs of personnel and bylaw. So all of those checks and balances are there. So executive committee, from my opinion, is the correct oversight. And again, I think that's where it was discussed. If it's something that needs to be, whether executive committee and or to the council, that they will go forward at that. But I will say, we have this in the financial policies, won't be done this year, but I do think that we need to get a personnel committee to take a look at implementing these gaps that are on that side as well, just since we're talking about it. But we're not going to take it up today.
Right.
Now you got Mary all nervous now.
Well, I'm looking at it just as it's a gap that needs to be.
That's correct.
I don't think we have to get into a lot of detail. I don't think
But
it's
it's a
likely to
gap.
happen, but it's a gap.
Yeah.
Right.
It's for sure. And again, this is the whole point of having these discussions, right? I mean, the clearer that we can be, and so we don't, I mean, remember the original personnel policy was 16 pages and there were no financial policies in place. So the more that this, time and effort and finding these gaps, and be reviewed on an annual basis, only makes us as a tighter organization and clearer, leaving no interpretation for anyone.
And I also look at it as like, okay, we trust Mary implicitly, but 5-10 years from now, who knows who our executive director is, right? And we might be very happy to have some language in here that we don't have to bring up at that time.
Mhm.
So I think that's correct language to be added for, in terms of the oversight.
If,
Yeah, that looks good.
is that even something that we could ask the auditors?
You could, I don't know, Brenda?
Yeah, I'm thinking it's not a
Auditing.
financial auditing thing, so I'm thinking probably no,
think-
it's not.
I think if we were talking more along the lines of the fraud prevention language, they might express a desire to weigh in. This, I seem to think, I think this is more HR related than they're comfortable with. If we
Yeah,
were
agree.
dealing, if we wanted to go through some sort of a human resources audit.
But we
or-
can certainly ask the question of Jennifer.
Sure, yeah.
That can't hurt, just to put that out to her. We'll be, again, to the level of they do ask about the fraud element. So, but again, we will, when it gets to the other side of the personnel policies, like I said, we'll take that up with Stephen. And I promise I won't be shaking too much in my boots, Stephen.
Oh.
Are we okay with moving on from there?
Mhm.
Yep, and I think we're at the end.
Oh, that's it. Oh, that is.
Awesome. All right, Megan, can we go back to page 14?
Yep.
Okay, because all right, stop at number 9 where it's highlighted. I put this language in because I thought it needed to be more specific, but I talked to Paul about it and he said what the process was, and it was that because it originally said fiscal department, and I thought that was just way too generic. But it is the fiscal manager and Paul who do the reviews and sign-offs. So
That's
we may
correct.
just want to go back and get rid of manager or designee and just leave it the way that Paul had it with fiscal department review and sign-off.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. I mean, I know what the process is, and just clean up that language right now so it doesn't make it into the final draft.
Mhm.
Okay, that looks good to me. Everybody else okay with just having me read fiscal department?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that's all I had. Anybody else have any other questions or concerns about the document before we talk about approving it? All right, I'll make a motion that we approve this financial policy document and bring it to the full council or recommend that the full council approve it at tomorrow's meeting as well.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you, Becky. All right, Mary, can you do roll call vote?
Christine Joy,
Accept.
Stephen Santusanio,
Except,
Sandra Wright,
Except,
Becky Coletta.
Except,
And Madam Treasurer, just for clarification, since we went through all the different changes, we're going to present the final document as amended, where we don't need to have highlights or anything.
Oh, no,
Right.
just, yeah,
I just want that clarified, so.
yep, good
if
to go.
anybody has any
Perfect.
questions, they can ask us, but everybody received it anyway, so anyway.
Right,
thank-
everybody did see it, and then they saw what we were proposing for changes.
Right.
So, thank you all. I mean, that was the purpose of this exercise, was to go through that and get this thing as clean and tight as we possibly could in this annual review. So thank you, everybody, for your comments on that. I do have one thing that I wanted to talk about that's kind of a segue off of the financial policies, and it's that we didn't have anything about the sick time liability on the discussion of the agenda, but we obviously have the liability is part of our job as the Finance Audit Committee. So I wanted to let everybody know that we voted to acknowledge the statement to report sick time and liability, and that we changed the language in the personnel policies, but we have not addressed how we're going to go about funding this yet. So just as an FYI, it might be something that we discuss after the first of the year, but we're definitely heading in the right direction with getting this squared away. All right, so next item is the OPEB trust update. I went to an excellent meeting with the Plymouth County Commissioners and the group that is managing our OPEB, and feel really good about these guys and this group, what they're doing. We've had excellent returns so far, much better than a lot of larger funds that are professionally managed by people that are making millions of dollars. So we're really in a very good place. In full transparency, the handout that they gave us, they include all of our holdings that are in the portfolio. So I, in the chat, put the link to it so that you guys can go in and get any, thank you, Mary, for pulling it up. So you can pull up
That's Megan.
anything on our, thank you, Megan, on our OPEB and see exactly where our money is and what's happening. There were a couple of takeaways that I did want to share. We've had excellent returns in the short period of time that we've been in it. What Dennis was saying, that going forward, he is anticipating that we're going to be seeing lower returns, that this has been a very unusual time in the stock market. We're at all-time highs. He's thinking that over the next 10 years, we're going to have lower returns, which will probably be about 7% annually on stocks and like 4% on bonds. And then he also shared that going forward, his reasoning for saying this was that we're going to go back to like more historic times with the stock market. He said a couple of headwinds that will cause the returns to be lower is that he said, regardless of who's in the White House, there's going to be pressure to get our spending under control, which is a headwind. And he said also the world population is decreasing, and that really affects global growth, and that is something that will also affect our returns. And he said, but on the positive is the AI, and that nobody really knows where that's going to land, and that would be something that would be help the stock market, but there's too many unknowns with it right now. So these are public meetings. Anybody is welcome to attend. They're extremely interesting. So it's interesting to see how our funds are managed, but there's also great personal takeaways. So for anybody who's got money in the stock market, to see some of these funds that they've got our money in, just something to think about. So that's my report on the meeting, the Plymouth County OPEB trust meeting. Good stuff.
Christine, did you have a chance to talk to them about having, I know you weren't eligible to be, you put your name in for being on the board.
What they said was that the actual treasurer for this group will be finishing their term soon, and that would be a more appropriate place for me to throw my hat in the ring as the treasurer for this governing body that works with PCOT. So that's just something to keep in mind, is when the current treasurer for this group resigns or retires, that would be the appropriate fit for me.
Because they don't have a seat for a regional planning agency. They have it for
Correct.
municipality.
Yeah, correct. And she said, as treasurer, that really, you shouldn't be just a general member. You'd need to be in that capacity as a treasurer.
I just wanted that to thank you for clarifying.
You're
that.
welcome. Okay, so back to the agenda. Where are we, Megan? Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, ROM building update, action item. Mary, are you taking that one?
I am going to take that. So this has to do with, Megan, do you have that on the, no, there it is. So we have some roof repairs, and if you can see the total amount, it's 15,340. Gibson Roof were the contractor that solved our multiple year issue with leaking in the back over Andrew's Vidal's desk. We have gone to them for repairs just for here and there, but recently when we were up on the roof, we noticed that it's 15 years old, Charlie. 10, I forgot how old. 10 years old.
10.
Thank you, Charlie. 10 years old, starting to see some green moldy things. It needs some maintenance, so we asked them to put together a scope for some of the roof repairs, masonry, wall coating. This is a specialty work. I will tell you that I've been searching high and low for roofers to do this work, and some have come and have actually left us to do more work. So since it's above since the rules have changed, but still, while it's over 10,000, I did want to present what they provided for scope of work, and just to get the authorization from the finance committee for me to move forward. The weather's getting bad and really want to be able to address it. There's actually a gutter that has a leak in it, and it comes down on the sidewalk. And if that freezes, someone's going to slip and fall, and then we will be in for some trouble. So I am requesting that this finance committee provide approval for me to enter into agreement with Gibson Roofing.
Do we need 3 quotes if it's over 15?
So since it was just talked about as it was being reviewed, I do not have 3 quotes. Again, I can't find roofers is what really my challenge is. I've reached out to a couple in advance, and they said, yeah, we'll talk to you sometime next year. So I can ask Gibson to help me find 2 other quotes, so we have that. But to your point, when Paul was going through the financial policies, it did in fact say 3 quotes are required, Becky. So I kind of winced a bit when I saw that. So if
we have a
Is it-
stipulation, like where something like this needs to be done and waiting is going to be more of an issue down the road, that you can kind of push it through? And
I probably would say my gut says no, Stephen. I wish I could. But again, just because it was just reviewed in our fiscal policies, what I would request,
Well, there is a There is an emergency procurement piece of 30B. I just don't know it that well.
Paul, are you aware of that, the emergency for 30B?
Yeah, I'd have to look at it again. I know that it was enacted during COVID and the need for PPE right away. But it's been a little bit, so I'll have to brush up on it. I mean, the other thing we could do is if there was any wiggle room to get it down from the 15,340 just to 15 flat, if they'd be willing to, change some pricing on that, then we'd be all set. It would be within the threshold. That could be another option.
Here's what I'm going to recommend. We have the auditors coming on November 6th. I would rather, just because they are actually including in this price, it's not included, is the fixing of the gutter. So they're including the gutter and not changing this price on us. So I think if I'm going to ask them to bring it down under 15, they're going to charge, I mean, I would. So
Get into 3 contracts. Is
I'm
that
sorry.
that skirting the procurement rules, Paul? I'm not a good procurement person. Like, could you say there's a cost for, I can't read all of this. There's something above this. Megan, could you scroll up just a tiny bit? Sorry. Yeah, so could we have a separate agreement for roof repairs and masonry wall coating? And maybe the piece that they're doing for free goes onto the masonry wall coating piece?
Having,
Or is it really more of a roof repair cost because it's a
well, the
gutter?
masonry wall, actually, it's up on the roof, but it's part of when there is a northeastern wind, it goes into that roofing area. And yeah, I would not classify this as emergency. I just wouldn't. I thank you for bringing that up, Megan, but I just would not have. It's because it.
Yeah,
we've-
I know it's a specific circumstance where
Yeah.
this gets enacted.
Yeah,
Like
thanks, Megan.
like I said, when we were in COVID
Mhm.
time and
Yep.
there was a need for PPE right away.
Yeah. So we have between now and November 6th. I do not want to wait longer than November 6th with the executive committee. We'll have it on for that agenda. Let me go back to asking Gibson to either break this up with the roof repairs and separately with masonry wall, and or help, I will look to get 2 other quotes.
Well, is a no quote a quote?
I it's
If
an A for
people say they
effort.
can't do it, is
I-
that count as a quote?
Actually, it does, believe it or
Mhm.
not. So
So
if you reach out to
maybe,
them and they
Mary,
don't
people you've
provide you with
reached
one,
out to, maybe
I'll
you
just
could
have
put
that
a document
documented.
together
Good
that they
point.
could just sign, that
Okay.
they're confirming that they're not able to quote the
Perfect.
project at this time.
Great, I'll get those, I will get those.
And that might get us our 3 quotes then.
There's actually 3 contractors that have already told me that, so I will get those.
Perfect. Awesome.
Documented.
Okay.
So with that,
yeah.
And
Okay.
if I may, that at the end I saw where there's no guarantee or warranty on the work that they're gonna do. At the bottom.
please note that repairs come with no guarantee on or warranty. Yeah, so that's a good note. I will tell you that their work has been the warranty because we haven't had an issue. Charlie, when did we get that was last year, maybe a year and a half ago?
Yeah, it's been about a year.
Yeah.
So
And for me, that's so,
I believe
Um,
part of the reason for that is the fact that they did not do the original work.
that's correct. Thank
So
you, Sean.
they're not, it would be effectively them guaranteeing other people's work, which
Yeah.
no contractor is going to do.
And a little bit further history on that is that the folks that did the original work, we can't seem to find them, because I know Gibson was the one who said, hey, get us in touch with the company, because I'm sure the warranty is still there.
Right.
And that's been a challenge.
And
Yeah, Charlie?
I mean, I think we've had a couple of very small issues with some of the things that they have done in the past where they have come back and made it right without question. So I don't anticipate, like I said, if they come back, if it's something that they have specifically done, I don't see them saying that oh, well, you're out of luck.
Sandy, does that answer your question in terms of the no warranty?
Yeah, sure. That makes sense.
So Madam Treasurer, unless there's other questions, I will make sure that all the documentation is in place.
For November 6th.
No, I think
Perfect.
we actually, with the no quotes, we are ready
Okay.
with this now.
So
Okay,
how
so
about-
you're looking for a motion now then, because you've got,
Three
no
no
Okay.
quotes.
So how about I move that provided our executive team acquires the documentation to comply with Chapter 30B of Mass General Laws,
Mhm.
we will approve the spending of the entry into contract with Gibson for the work as detailed in this proposal. If the Chapter 30B cannot be complied with under these terms, our executive team will come back for further approvals.
That's a
I'll
form
second
of
that
a-
motion.
Yeah.
And on the motion, I can do the roll call.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mary.
Christine Joy,
Accept.
Stephen Santusanio,
Except,
Sandra Wright,
Accept.
and Becky Coletta.
Except,
All right, thank you. All right, Mary, status of state retirement legislation.
It's still before the legislature and Charlie, help me because I know you were this was on the last MARPA meeting that I jumped in late.
It,
I know.
it was
A&-
it was reported at A&F, but then it's like still sitting on the desk in the House, and that's where they were going to Rep. Mikowitz and
Oh, right. So it's still there and
Okay.
fixed, along with the treasurer's bill are both now with the House. That's how I remembered. Thank you, Charlie. So status
Okay.
quo. Thank you.
All right. How about update on state and federal actions?
We are continuing to monitor everything between our Tremont strategies as well as the Ferguson group that Paul, we just were on the FFIO office. So there is no action that this organization needs, but we will continue to monitor everything that is coming both state as well as federal.
Great. Thank you, Mary. All right, there's no other business. Thank you
Sandra.
all for attending this meeting. We did go a little bit longer than we usually do, but we had a lot of good things that we needed to get to discuss and get squared away. So thank you all very much for your time tonight. With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make
Motion
that
so
motion.
moved.
I'll
All right,
second.
thank you. Great. In a
Second.
second. All
And
right,
thank you,
so
Charlotte, for your
good night, everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow night at the full council.
Aye.
Yes.
All right, adjourn. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank
night.
you.